space. Let's have a big round of applause for the Carl Field Center. In addition, we're honored to have the co-sponsorship of Princeton University's esteemed Department of Music, as well as the university's program in South Asian Studies. So a round of applause for them as well. And last but certainly not least, on the student side, we're grateful to have two student group co-sponsors for this event, the Princeton Hindu Satsangam, or PHS, and PU Swara, our campus's classical Indian music student group. So let's show our appreciation for our student groups as well. This evening, we are so happy to host renowned and award-winning Carnatic singer and teacher, Sriranjani Tapasya Santhanagopalan. Who will offer us a lecture demonstration this evening. She will present for about an hour and 15 minutes or so, after which she will open things up for Q&A as time allows. If anyone does need to leave early or excuse themselves at any point, including to use the restrooms, which are located just outside of our room and to the right, we just ask that you do so as quietly as possible. Now, ordinarily, those of you who attend these programs somewhat regularly know that this would be the part in the introduction where I would offer some introductory remarks and formally introduce our guest speaker. But I'm not going to do that this evening. Instead, I'm going to invite Sanjana Venkatesh of the class of 2026 to do so. Tonight's talk is especially significant for Sanjana since it is the coming together of her two worlds right here at Princeton. Not only is she a senior here at the university, but she is also a dedicated disciple of our guest speaker. A few words about Sanjana before we begin. Even on a campus that is full of extraordinary young adults, Sanjana is remarkable. She is an academically driven undergraduate student, pursuing her BSE in electrical and computer engineering. For those who are maybe not so familiar with Princeton majors, that's a really, really big deal. She also has interdisciplinary interests in systems biology, electrical engineering, computer science, the philosophy of science, and religion. Now, I won't embarrass her by telling you her GPA, but let's put it this way. If I had to type out her transcript and somehow every letter on my keyboard was jammed except for the letter A, I could still do it. Beyond her academic achievements, Sanjana is also committed to bringing the best of all she does onto campus. That includes co-founding SOMA, Princeton's Bioethics Collective, serving as an OA leader and a peer academic advisor, singing in the University Chapel Choir, dancing and choreographing for Nacho, the university's South Asian contemporary dance company, and apropos of tonight's event, being an active part of Hindu Life, PHS, and PU Swara here on campus. And on a personal note, let me add, I have thoroughly enjoyed working closely with Sanjana on a number of fronts, including her participation in a weekly Bhagavad Gita study circle that I have the joy to lead, working with her on a new offering aimed at exploring spirituality for engineering students here at Princeton, and of course, working with her on tonight's event. So on that note, Sanjana, would you please come up here and help us to welcome our very special guest speaker?
Namaskaram. Good evening, everyone. And Dean Vinit, thank you so much. What a flowery introduction. Today, I am deeply honored to introduce to you my guru, my teacher, Vidushi Sriranjani Tapasya Santhanagopalan, or as I refer to her affectionately, Sriranjani Akka, or Big Sister. Sriranjani Tapasya Santhanagopalan is one of the most sought-after exponents in Carnatic music, the classical music of South India. Celebrated for her remarkable versatility and depth across both traditional and contemporary formats, Sriranjani Akka has captivated audiences across India, the USA, UK, UAE, Singapore, Australia, and more. A senior disciple and daughter of Sangeeta Kalanidhi, Neyveli Sri Santhanagopalan, she carries forward a rich musical legacy with a distinctive voice of her own. Sriranjani is regularly featured at premier platforms including the Music Academy in Chennai, India, the Tyagaraja Aradhana in Cleveland, Ohio, Sydney Music Festival, and Pallavi Darbar. These are all very prestigious Carnatic venues. Sriranjani is also the founder of Tapasya School of Music, mentoring over 70 students worldwide with a focus on manodharma, creative interpretation in Carnatic music, and values-based training. As a curator, she leads innovative digital and live initiatives such as a musical Navratri, Tapasya chamber concerts, and annual fundraiser events supporting diverse causes. In addition to her formidable presence on stage, Sriranjani is deeply committed to music education and outreach. Through the Tapasya School of Music, she focuses on both technical precision and emotional depth, and creating a nurturing space for the next generation of musicians. She has curated and led a wide range of workshops, lecture demonstrations like the one you will see today, and masterclasses on subjects such as manodharma, or improvisation through varnams, grand compositions with grand chitteswarams, and the art of viritam singing, sharing her insights with students, educators, and music lovers alike. As a thought leader, Sriranjani has contributed to critical discourse in the field through panel discussions at the Music Academy in Chennai, where she spoke on Lakshana and Lakshya, a contested relationship, and at the Chennai International Center, where she addressed the theme Women in South Indian Classical Arts, Breaking the Glass Ceiling. It is with great pleasure, on behalf of the Hindu Life Program, Princeton University Swara, and Princeton Hindu Satsangam, that I welcome my guru, Vidushi Sriranjani Tapasya Santhanagopalan, to Princeton University to present Sacred Spaces, Forgotten Voices, Women and Temples in Carnatic Music. Please enjoy.
Namaste and a very good evening to the lovely people present here today. This is Sriranjani Tapasya Santhanagopalan. By the way, there are a lot of people here who have attended my concerts before and who know me on a personal level. You might be a little surprised by the Tapasya in the middle name. The Tapasya School of Music and Tapasya as a brand has become, let's put it this way, I have a deep emotional connection with the brand Tapasya, which is also the name of the school that I run. So I have decided to incorporate it into my name. Eventually, I hope to be Sriranjani Tapasya. So look forward to your support on that. A little about myself, even though Sanjana has introduced me elaborately. I'm a Carnatic, aka South Indian classical musician, vocalist to be particular, and an educator. And I run the Tapasya School of Music. And I feel deeply honored and privileged to be here at Princeton University to present the lecture demonstration in front of all you lovely people. So for that, I thank Sanjana, who coordinated this event with Vineet. And I also thank Princeton Hindu Life Program, the Carl A. Field Center, the Center for South Asian Studies, PU Swara, and am I forgetting? Princeton Hindu Satsangam for co-sponsoring this event. So thank you so much. I'm also thankful for my students, Sanjana and Soumya, for joining me on stage today, and Kirti Venkatramani, who will be on the Mridangam today. So please extend a warm welcome to all of them. Thank you. I'd like to begin with a Carnatic composition. For those who are not familiar with Carnatic music, I urge you to observe the changing moods in this particular composition. It's called a Raga Malika, which means the mood or the raga keeps changing throughout the song. This song I also connect on a very personal basis because it was composed in the temple Kurikarai, which is very close to the village that my parents are from, Kodavasal. So it's composed by Muthuswami Dikshitar in the temple of Kurikarai. I will present it along with my students and Kirti. Tadari Shri Vishwanatham Bhaje Shri Vishwanatham Bhaje Shri Vishwanatham Bhaje Nisa Rima Pa Nisa Risa Pa Nisa Risa Sa Ni Pa Tani Pa Mari Garisa Chatur Dasha Bhuvana Rupanaga Malika Bharana Dharanat Karanam Shrita Janasam Sar Vidyapaham Shrita Janasam Shri Vishalakshi Gauri Shri Vishalakshi Gaurisham Sari Gari Sari Mapa Sani Sa Dapa Magari Gaurisham सकल निष्कल रूप सचिता नंदमय गौरीशम चित्र विश्वनाटक प्रकाशम पमादिपा सानी रे सानी परी रे सानी पमरी प्रकाशम जगत प्रकाशक भास्कर शशांक कोटि कोटि प्रकाशम गोविंदादि विनोद गौड़ा पानी सानी पानी सारे सरि गमरे सानी पगौड़ा क्षीर कुंदेंदु कर्पूरा विजय बसेतो तुलित गौड़ांगम गुरु गुह सम्मोहन करलिंगम गदप गरीस गरीस पदग मोहन करलिंगम पंचीकृत पंचमाग भूत प्रपंचानि मोहन करलिंगम तप गगा गगा परि तदस विरचि विष्णु रुद्रमूर्तिमयम् ऋगमरि सनि स रिमपनि विषय पंचकर हितमबयो मरि सनि पमगम पनि बसानि निरतिशय सुखद निपुण तारौ ऋगरि सानि नि सरि नि रे रे निगम सारमीश्वर ममरौ सानि ग प मगरि पद स शिवमतुल्य गरि सनि पामरि गरि सनि सदय सदय हृदय निलय अहिंसं श्री विश्वनाथं भजे Just wanted to check. Are you able to hear me okay? Okay. Thank you. Before we deep dive into the subject, I have to reduce the volume of the drone. And I'd also like to set the premise for those who are not familiar with what Carnatic music is. Or Carnatic music is the centuries old classical music of South India. It dates back to 2000 years. But the kind of Carnatic music that we hear today has been shaped over the past 500 years. The instrument you see behind me, it's called the tanpura. The specialty of Carnatic music and how it's different from other forms of music, particularly Western music, is that we have a reference note, a shadjam as we call it, an adara shadjam. In my case, I sing in A scale, A key. So everything that I sing will come back to that reference note or the key note of shadjam. So this tanpura, can you play it? This tanpura it's supposed to have 5 strings, but due to the cold temperature, since it's made of wood, it sort of tightened up and this last string sort of came off. So we have 4 strings now. There is pa, sa, sa. This sa to sa framework is within which we sing. Of course, we go above and below sa a little bit, but we always keep coming back to that keynote shadjam. As opposed to Western music where there is harmonization, there's no fixed scale, right? So in Carnatic music, that's what is special. We go in depth into one melody. We embellish that one melody. We call it sangatis or permutations in the same melody. We make so many different variations. And the other thing you need to know is it is very lyrics forward. Carnatic music is very lyrics forward. There's a lot of compositions, fixed compositions, over which we improvise and develop and that sort of thing. And it is I would say 90% of the compositions in Carnatic music are based in devotion, religion, bhakti, spirituality, philosophy, etc. There is romance, there is non-religious compositions as well, but 90% of it is based on God's spirituality and philosophy. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is this instrument. It's this double-faced or double-headed instrument that you see. It's called the mridangam. We have 2 important aspects in Carnatic music, the raga, which is the melody, and the tala, which is the rhythmic framework. This percussion instrument is the rhythm keeper. Of course, it does more than that. There's a lot of embellishing that comes from this instrument. But yes, although all the gestures that we do with our hand, they're also rhythm keepers. So this is the basics of Carnatic music. Now we move on to the actual subject. At the outset, I'd like to say that I will be concentrating on temples and women artists primarily from South India, because that is the landscape from which Carnatic music itself emerges, and also that's where I'm from. So, how many of you have been to temples? I would just like to, by show of hands. Oh, the question should have been, how many of you have not been to Hindu temples? Oh, okay. Great, okay. So, when you picture a temple in India, especially in South India, what comes to your mind immediately? Maybe you're imagining towering gateways, gopurams. You're imagining gods and goddesses, sanctum sanctorum, flowers, smell of incense, and all of these things. But what if I told you that these temples were not only religious spaces, but also cultural powerhouses? That they were the first concert halls, the first theaters, the first universities of South India. What if I told you that? And that is the truth. This is a story I want to share today of temples as epicenters of Carnatic music and Bharatanatyam, which is the South Indian classical dance, and of forgotten women who once shaped that world. women like Muddu Palani, Bangalore Nagaratnamal, Andal, Dhanammal, etc. So let's talk about temples first. Let's talk about temples as cultural laboratories. It is said that the soul of a nation is enshrined in its temples, in its literature, in its arts. In India, all three are considered to have been born from the divine and are highly venerated. The fine arts, music, dance, poetry, have always been looked upon as sacred, not merely entertainment, but as vehicles for spiritual pursuit. Music, in particular, apart from its sheer aesthetic appeal, was seen by the ancient sages as a pathway to transcendence, something capable of transporting both the performer and the listener towards heavenly bliss. So, naturally, almost all composers, as I told you, their compositions are majorly influenced by the temples and the gods. So I have to tell you this. This is something you need to know about Carnatic music. The greatest composers in Carnatic music, the most celebrated ones, they're called the Trinity. There is three: Tyagaraja, Muthuswami Dikshitar, and Shyama Shastri. So much like we say BC and AC, we say pre-Trinity and post-Trinity period when it comes to Carnatic music. So I'll PT and AT maybe. So the pre-Trinity PT composers, Narayana Tirtha, Bhadrachala Ramadasa, Purandaradasa, Annamaya, they were all steeped in the Bhakti tradition, right? They were all affiliated to some temples. They were fiercely loyal to a particular temple, a particular god, and they composed on that particular god, right? For example, Bhadrachala Ramadasa will be presenting his composition. He was an ardent devotee of the Sita Ramachandra Swami at Bhadrachalam. This is in Andhra, which is in South India as well. So all his compositions, most of his compositions are based out of this temple. They're very simple compositions, very easy to understand. In fact, all composers in the Bhakti movement, pre-Trinity era, they all composed very simple, easy to follow compositions so that everybody can join in, right? So you're going to see. The composition that I presented in the beginning was full of embellishments. The moods kept changing. But look at how simple this composition is. By the way, the Bhadrachala temple is a 17th century temple. It was constructed by the Nayak kings. Ramabhadra Ra Shri Ramachandra Ra Ramabhadra Ra Shri Ramachandra Ra Tamarasalochana Sita Sametara Ramabhadra Ra Shri Ramachandra Ra Tamarasalochana Sita Sametara Ramabhadra Rana Shri Ramachandra Ra Lochana Sita Sametara Muddu Muddu Gana Mudu mudu ganava mohanagara mudu mudu ganava mohanagara atam puche kilawada nirajakshara atam puche kilawada nirajakshara Ramabhadra Shri Ram Ramachandra Rara Tamarasalochana Sita Sametara Ramabhadra Rara. Thank you. So this has more stanzas, but all the stanzas are similar to what I sang now. There is no variation in the stanzas. Samagana lolana chakadayara Ramada sunalina badrachaleshara. So during the Bhakti movement, all the compositions were extremely simple, easy to follow, so that more and more people can join in the Bhakti movement. And then we also have the Tevaram and Divya Prabandham. These are hymns sung again during the Bhakti movement by the Bhakti saints, Nayanmars and Alvars. I'd like to present just a short excerpt. This is sung by Appar in the temple of Tiruvannamalai. For those who are familiar with Ramana Maharshi, he's from Arunachala. So from the temple of Arunachaleshwara temple, Tiruvannamalai, this was built by the Chola kings in the 9th century. So I'm going to be singing a small excerpt. Veeranai Vidamundani Vinnavardhiranai Tiruvannamalayyanai Ooranai Unarar Puramondreidaranai Adiyen Maranduyvanovanai மதிசூடியமைந்தனை தேனன்னை திருவண்ணாமலையனை வானனை. So this this is my doing. It's not a part of the original structure. The original structure is very simple. Even when you take abhangs, these days we hear very highly embellished abhangs. Abhangs are, again, Bhakti movement compositions that were sung in Pandharipur. We do things like Sakamaza Narayana, but actual structure is Sakamaza Narayana, Sakamaza Narayana. That's it. Bhakta Janavatsale, Eyo Vitthale, Bhakta Janavatsale. This whole Eyo Vitthale came much later. They're very simple, easy to follow structures. I think I've established that enough. Moving on, we have Sthalakritis. Now, we come to the Trinity period where things started really heating up as far as Carnatic music and Kritis were concerned. The compositions started gaining the structure of Pallavi, Anupallavi, Charanam. Sangatis were taught by Tyagaraja Swami to his students. So all of this started happening. So the seriousness started to happen during the Trinity period. Sthalakritis are compositions that are pertinent to a certain temple. And Muthuswami Dikshitar was the master of this. He's composed about every deity in South India, I would say, almost every deity in South India. So I'd like to present a very popular one that most people in the Carnatic circle know. This is on the Srirangam temple. Actually, they say it dates back to the 2nd century CE. This is over 1,800 years ago. I'm talking about the temple. It is the largest functioning religious structure in the world, the Srirangam temple. So if you go to Srirangam, Trichy, please don't miss it. Rangapura Vihara Srirangapura Vihara Jaya रामावतार रघुवीर श्रीरंग पूरविहार जय कोदंड रामावतार रघुवीर श्रीरंग अंगज जनक देवांगज जनक देवा वृंदावन सारंगेंद्र रमांत रंग श्यामलांग विहंग तुरंग सदया पांग सत्संग रंग पूरवी Next is another form of Carnatic music that is played in temples. It's called Mallari. This is very interesting. It is played in a wind instrument called the Nadaswaram, which has a booming sound. I actually once performed with a Nadaswaram instrument, like I performed with a Nadaswaram player. What I noticed that I needed two mics to be even heard, over the Nadaswaram. So it is a booming instrument. If you haven't heard it, you should definitely go search it up and hear it. It is yay long with a small conch-like thing in the bottom. It has holes. It looks a lot like the flute, but except it's not played like this. It's played like this. Oh, is it similar to? It's similar to an oboe, yes. So this Mallari is particularly played in this Nagaswaram instrument in different stages. It is played during procession. It is played during sometimes Tirupalli, that is when you put the deity to sleep, when you put the god to sleep, when you wake him up and that sort of thing. So Pallanda is played while waking up, but sometimes Mallari is also played, especially in Shiva temples. So I'd like to present a small Mallari. The structure is very beautiful. It is fully based off of jati and swarams. Jati is another term that I'd like to explain. Jati is, how do I explain? It's, yes, recurring syllables. Like, you'll see. Actually, there's no way to explain this. You have to hear this. Tum, tum, tumka, takita, taka, tum tam, takatam, takatam, tadingina, takita, tam, takadiku, takatadingina, takadiku, tadingina, takatadingina, ta. Ka takita taka tum tam takatam takatam tadingina tum takita tam tam takadiku takatadingina tum takadiku tadingidnatum takatadingidnatum tum tum tunga tunga takita takatum tatunga takatam takatam tadingidnatum takita tam tam takadiku takatadingidnatum takadiku tadingidnatum takatadingidnatum tum tum tunga takita takatum tatuntam takatam takatam tadingidnatum takita tam tam takadiku takatadingidnatum takadiku tadingidnatum takatadingidnatum tum tum ta tum ta takita takatum tatum tam takatam takatam tadingidnatum ta. Thank you, but please imagine it in the booming sound of Nadaswaram. It's super beautiful. The other kind of compositions that are affiliated to temples, most of them are, but these are special because they are group kritis. The Trinity have composed several group kritis, as in sets of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or even 9, called Navavarnams. Sets of 9 compositions, up to 9 compositions, dedicated to one particular temple and one particular god, right? Most of you are familiar with the Kamalamba Navavarnam. It is on the goddess Kamalamba of Trivarur, which is also very close to the village of my parents. It's in the Tanjavur district. Most of these temples, by the way, are concentrated in the Tanjavur district. And it was actually primarily built by the Chola kings and completed later by the Nayakas and Maratha kings. And this belongs to the 9th century CE. Maybe I should present one Navavarnam, just the Pallavi or something. Do you have any requests? Any? Kalyani? Okay, sure. It's a set of 9 compositions. So whoever has requested, can you? Ah, okay, right in the back. All right. Kamalamba bhajare re manas kamala bhajare re manas kalbita maya karyam tyajare kamala babajare. I'd also like to, I have been to this temple, so I'd like to bring this to notice. Tyagaraja Swami has composed the Kovur Pancharatnam. Pancha in Sanskrit means 5. Nava means 9. So Pancharatna means 5 gems on the Shiva, in the Shiva temple of Kovur. Again, this was constructed by the Chola kings. We cannot forget that these temples owed their very existence and grandeur to the rich endowments of the ruling monarchs of that time, especially the Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas, Nayak, and the Maratha. It's very interesting because the Cheras and Cholas they brought in the Tamil culture. The Nayaks brought in the Telugu culture. And the Maratha kings obviously brought in the Marathi culture. So at some point, especially arts became a fusion of all of these things. We don't realize, but there is elements of all of these cultures in Carnatic music, right? So thanks to these kings for their patronage, right? Their patronage actually ensured not only the construction of monumental temple architectures, but also the flourishing of music, dance, and ritual within those sacred spaces. It is important to note that the Cholas were great patrons of the Chidambaram temple, and the Cheras were also Shaivites. They are from the Kerala region. And the Pandyas were devoted to the Madurai Meenakshi temple. And the Nayaks worshipped the majestic Brihadishwara temple, or the Periya Kovil as we call it, literally translating to the big temple because of its sheer size. So What I'm trying to say here is temples were both ritual state. They were both places of worship as well as conservatory, and they were the very seat of the development of arts and culture. And I'd like to come to an important point here. At the heart of this ecosystem were some forgotten women that do not get the recognition that they deserve. Now, I told you that there were a lot of bhakti saints that composed in temples. The Maharajas, eventually they started, Maharajas or the kings, they eventually started commissioning, or rather funding, women called devadasis. Devadasi literally translates to servants of God. So these women were dedicated to serving the temples. And they were interestingly, they were also the custodians of dance, music, and poetry. They lived in matrilineal households where knowledge and property passed from mother to daughter. That's interesting to note. For centuries, they preserved not only compositions that they learned from these composers and bhakti saints. Actually, we even know the Trinity compositions today. We even have knowledge of the Trinity compositions today because of the Devdasis. They were the sole custodians of the Padams and Javalis tradition. I'll explain what Padams are. They are erotic love songs, and Javalis are light romantic pieces. And Varnams, these Devdasis were polyglots, they were scholars, poets, some became mystics. But their stories are diverse, and today I want to linger on some of these women, both celebrated and forgotten. I'd like to start with Muddu Palane. She belonged to the 18th century CE. Now, to Muddu Palane, she was one of the most extraordinary women of the Nayaka Maratha court. She was a poet, scholar, dancer, and courtesan in the court of King Pratapa of Tanjavur. She traced her lineage proudly through her grandmother, Tanjai Nayaki, herself a celebrated Devadasi. Muddu Palani's great work, Radhika Santhanamu, it's called The Appeasement of Radha. It's a 584-verse Telugu epic exploring Radha's jealousy, anger, and reconciliation after Krishna marries another woman. What makes it radical? It's told from a female perspective of desire and sexual arousal. And Radha is not a coy maiden. She's a woman demanding sexual satisfaction, capable of rage, jealousy, tenderness. And Muddu Palani writes with unapologetic candor about the longing and ecstasy. In the 19th century, male reformers called her vulgar, and erotic devotion was acceptable for men, double standards, but from a woman, it was obscene. Her text was banned eventually, but it's interesting that it took another Devdasi, Bangalore Nagaratnamal, to republish she edited and republished Radhika Santhanamu after much struggle. I'm not going to get into that, but you should just know that it was also banned. When Bangalore Nagaratnamal republished it, it was banned again. And then she had to fight and then republish it. So I just wanted to mention that. Now I come to one of my favorite women. I have actually studied this woman extensively. I have made videos about her. I'm very passionate about Bangalore Nagaratnamal. Look at all that she has achieved. She's a composer, which excites me to no end. She's composed some very beautiful padams and javalis. But also look at her achievements outside of being a composer. She restored the Tyagaraja Samadhi. She built the temple for Tyagaraja in Thiruvayaru. She founded the Tyagaraja Aradhana for women because women for the longest time were not allowed to participate in the worship of the Tyagaraja, in the Tyagaraja Aradhana ceremony. Women were not allowed to participate. She fought for the equality of women in the Tyagaraja Aradhana. In 1927, she actually conducted an all-women Aradhana right opposite to where the men were conducting the Aradhana. And later the men were like, okay, just join us. Later, she even performed Shraddham, which is ancestral ritual. How do you call the Shraddham? It's a ritual, sorry? Oh yeah, it's the rites for the forefathers. She performed, typically men perform these Shraddhams, but she performed the Shraddham for Tyagaraja Swami herself. She also fought the anti-notch lobby, arguing that art should not die just because the Devdasi system was collapsing. The Devdasi system was collapsing because, as I told you, Devdasis belonged to temples. And then after the British rule, um, the kings became broke. So the royal patronage in the temples stopped, right? So the Devdasis had to resort to individual patrons for their, to fund their life. So they had to move away from temples and move to patrons. So that was frowned upon because of British Victorian ideologies. So there was an anti-notch lobby. She spearheaded the anti-notch lobby. There was a Devdasi Act which abolished all Devdasis. So we are talking about two traditions here. One is a living tradition, which is temples. And we are talking also about a beautiful system that was completely wiped out, right? So it's kind of paradoxical, actually. So anyway, I'd like to present a short composition of Bangalore Nagaratnammal. It is in the language Kannada. The meaning is very beautiful. Actually, I'll tell you the context in which this was composed. She had a falling out with her patron and her lover, Narahari. So they didn't talk for months, and then they met somewhere, and he turned up for her. Basically, he turned up for her performance 6 months later somewhere, and she immediately composed this javali. The meaning goes: "Holder of my very life, having accepted my love, shouldn't you say at least one word just now? The moonlight falling on my eyes seems like the burning sunlight. The buzzing of the bees puts fear in me. Shouldn't you say something, my love? The mild breeze is driving me mad. The beautiful body is losing its luster. Shouldn't you say something, my love?" It's in the raga Khamas, which is supposed to evoke Shringara Rasa or romance. Matada baradenu ಮಾತಾಡಬಾರದೇನು ಮಾರಮಣನೆ ಮಾತಾಡಬಾರದೇನು ಮಾರಮಣ ನೇ ಮಾತಾಡಬಾರದೇನು ಮಾರಮಣ ನೇ ಮಾತಾಡಬಾರದೇನು ಪ್ರೀತಿ ಗೊಲಿದ ಪ್ರಾಣ 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 ನಾತಿ ಒಂದು ಮಾತಾಡ ಬಾರದೇನೋ ಮಾರಮಣನೆ ಮಾತಾಡ ಬಾರದೇನೋ ಓ Here, I'd like to quickly mention the Veena Dhanammal legacy. Veena Dhanammal, she played the Veena, the instrument Veena, and she was the first to bring the Gamaka system into the Veena. She was very significant in preserving many, many compositions in Carnatic music. Her lineage, her granddaughter Bala Saraswati, one of the most famous dancers, she used to sing and dance. She used to have a very beautiful voice. She used to do both singing and dancing. I used to wonder how, because you'll run out of breath and you would pant in between singing, right? None of that. She sang like a dream whilst she danced. Bala Saraswati. And of course, Brinda and Mukta, the renowned singers who inherited and passed down rare padams and javalis. I'd like to present a short excerpt of a javali, which I immensely, immensely enjoy from Brinda and Mukta. You can see that so I presented a padam before. You can see that this one is lighter and peppier. I'll sing it in the same ragam so that you can see the difference. మోడి చేసే వేళరాయిడుగాడ మోడి చేసే వేళరాయిడుగాడ మోడి చేసే వేళరా మోడి చేసే వేళరా ప్రియనే పిలిచితే మోడి చేసే వేళరా ప్రియనే పిలిచితే మోడి చేసే వేళరా మోడి చేసే వేళరా I'd also like to present another one that I immensely enjoy. It is also one of my favorite ragas, Kannada. I want to make a bad joke about its origins not being from Canada, but I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna pass. Okay. వారి పొందు చాలువదనే వారి పొందు చాలువదనే వనితామణియాలవాణి పొందు చాలువదనే I can see the sass oozing out of this composition. It literally means I don't need him. He's with someone else. He's with another woman. I don't need him. Vani pondu charuvadane vanitamani alavani pondu charuvadane vanitamani alavani pondu charuvadane ಸನಮಾಟ ಲೆಲ್ಲದಾನಿ ಸನಮಾಟ ಲೆಲ್ಲದಾನಿ ಸನಮಾಟ ಲೆಲ್ಲದಾನಿ ಸನಮಾಟ ಲೆಲ್ಲದಾನಿ ಸದನಮೇ ಸದಮನು ಚುಟ್ಟುಂಡಡಿ దాని సదనమే సదమను చుట్టుండడి వాణి పొందు చాలు వర్తనే చాలు I don't need him. I feel like it's anyway, I'd like to just mention one composer that's not from the south. The princess of Rajasthan, Mirabai. She just wanted to live her life. She was devoted to Krishna. She just wanted some freedom, but obviously she was not allowed any of that. She was married off to a king, Rana. She didn't want to be in married life. She was forced to, and she was frowned upon by everybody for being in the Krishna shrine for all the time. She was called a mad woman. And there's evidence because she says so in her own compositions that the world thinks I'm mad, but I don't care, is what she says. There is a composition, Paga Ghungurure. So, we all have this way to escape from reality, right? Her way to escape from reality was to tie the gunguru, or we call the chalangai, anklet on her leg and just dance in front of Krishna. That was her release from the world. Like, that was her safe space. And in this particular composition, she says, Log kahe Meera Bairi Bhavri, Nath kahe Kula Nashire. My husband says, you completely spoiled our lineage because of your actions, and our reputation because of your actions. Nath kahe Kula Nashire. Vishaka Pyala Rana ji ne bheja. As if that was not enough, her own sister-in-law tried to kill her by giving her poison. She accounts for that in this kriti as well. Vishaka Pyaza Rana ji ne bheja. Pivata Meera Hasire. She says, okay, so I'm drinking it and I'm laughing now. So I'd like to sing that composition now. Log, no. Madhyama Shruti. Pancham Bodhana. Only Shadja, not Pancham. Pag ghunguru re, pag ghunguru re, pag ghunguru bandh mera nachi 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 re, pag ghunguru re, pag ghunguru re. विष का प्याला राणा जी ने भेजा, विष का प्याला राणा जी ने भेजा, पीवत मीरा हासी रे, पीवत मीरा हासी रे, पग घुंघरू रे, पग घुंघरू रे. लोग कहे मीरा बैरी बावरी, लोग कहे मीरा बैरी बावरी, नाथ कहे कुल नाशी रे, लोग कहे मीरा बैरी बावरी, नाथ कहे कुल नाशी रे, मीरा कहे प्रभु गिरिधर नागर, मीरा कहे प्रभु गिरिधर नागर, सहज मिले अविनाशी रे, सहज मिले अविनाशी रे, पग घुंघरू रे, पग घुंघरू रे. come to the conclusion of this lecture demonstration, I'd like to just take a moment and talk about the fall of the devadasis and the irony behind it. By the 20th century, reformers, as I told you, had pushed through the legislation banning devadasis. Their intentions were to protect women from exploitation, but the result was a paradox. These women, who were the custodians of this art, were erased, stigmatized, and left destitute. The art that they preserved, the Bharatanatyam, Carnatic Padams, temple music, was appropriated and cleaned up and presented as national culture. This is why today we celebrate Bharatanatyam on global stages, but rarely we remember the women behind, or the women whose lives that gave it the breath. The closing reflection is that I think memory is political. Tradition is curated, and who gets to be remembered or forgotten tells us who has the power. The temples of South India still stand, stone upon stone, inscription upon inscription. But the women's voices inside those stones, like Muddu Palani or Nagaratnammal, those voices remind us of how fragile cultural memory is. When you next hear a Tyagaraja Kriti or see a Bharatanatyam dancer, remember, behind the saint, behind the raga, behind the geometry, are forgotten women, temples, and songs that refuse to die. This is the inheritance we must honor, and I hope you will join me in doing so. Thank you so much. Before I conclude, I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to Sanjana Venkatesh again, and to Vineet from Hindu Life Princeton, and heartfelt thanks to Anirudh Ramkumar for his invaluable inputs, and Vidwan Bharat Sundar for granting access to the book The Devdasi and the Saint, which was mighty helpful in the research. My gratitude also to Kirti Venkatramani for the beautiful playing. Thank you. And of course, to you, the wonderful audience, for being here today and joining me in this topic that is very, very close to my heart. So thank you so much for being here. I just want to mention that a copy of today's content, the Cliff Notes are available on request. I also have some images to go with it. Please feel free to reach out by email at Sriranjani Tapasya, Sriranjani Tapasya @gmail.com if needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's keep the applause going in one more time for Sriranjani ji and the entire group. What an insightful and powerful presentation. So we have just a few minutes left, and Sriranjani ji has been kind enough to stay with us just a little bit longer for some Q&A. If folks have some questions, I'm happy to run the mic over. And as some of you have heard me say before, especially when time is limited, we want to give a slight preference to questions over comments. I know sometimes folks are interested to share their own reflections and realizations and experiences, and that's great as well. But this is an invaluable experience to ask questions or to clarify any areas of doubt or curiosity. So we want to preference questions. So any questions right now? Okay, I see hands, and the hands start. And I think we might go to our youngest questioner first. So we're going to...
Please be kind.
Namaskaram. My name is Adya Iyer. I am 7 years old. Can you please talk about Ammupati and Srimati MS Subbalakshmi?
Of course, of course.
What a question. I think we should give a round of applause for the question.
I think by talking about, did you mean, okay, we'll see. So MS Subbalakshmi is one of my, Sure. So I want to talk about MS Subbulakshmi, who's one of my favorite singers, the legend, right? She was also from the Devadasi tradition. So thank you for bringing up her name. My childhood every day started with MS Subbulakshmi. So I'd like to sing something that I heard every day, every morning, with a cup of coffee. I'm so used to it that when I listen to that that composition, I taste coffee. Of Bhaja Govinda? Of Bhaja Govinda? Yeah, it's a Raga Malika actually, but it's Yaman-ish. What? Oh. Those who know the song, please feel free to join with me. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Mudhamate, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Mudhamate, Samprapte Sallihite Kale, Samprapte Sallihite Kale, Nahi nahi rakshati Dukrish karne, Nahi nahi rakshati Dukrish karne, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Mudhamate. Thank you, Adya.
Thank you. Other questions? I think, okay, so we're going to go here, here, and then here.
Hi, Sriranjani Akka. My name is Pooja. I'm one of Sriranjani Akka's students. I wanted to ask a question more about Mridangam related. I know that your brother plays Mridangam, and I know all of these art forms in the beginning started being played by men, performed by men, and eventually women were able to start performing. And the one instrument that I've noticed seen primarily still dominated by men is mridangam. And I, as a young girl, was actually interested in playing mridangam when I saw that my brother was learning, but I was somewhat discouraged by by others. And I was curious to see if you had that interest, wanted to ever pursue it, and what you think of that art form moving forward, if you think it's like going in any direction positive, or what your thoughts are on
Absolutely. I
that.
think it's definitely headed in a positive direction in that many women from our generation are definitely taking to Mridangam. In fact, I performed with a couple in March. I was, in fact, talking to her yesterday. She's a fantastic player. Her name is Charu Hariharan. And she's from Kerala, and she's a fantastic player. I also sang, interestingly, a concert with two lady mridangists, a double mridangam, a double lady mridangam concert. So that was by Deepika and Ranjani Venkatesh. So there are many players from our generation now. So we are definitely headed in a positive direction. It's all about being open-minded, both parents as well as the girls and the women. By the way, it's not too late for you to learn. You should go ahead and learn. You should yeah, absolutely, you should. So in fact, I was interested in learning another percussion instrument, the kanjira. In fact, we had something. Do you know? Have you heard of drum circle?
Mm-hmm.
A drum circle, for those who don't know, is we have something called the. It looks like a Congo, and there is one inner circle, and there's an outer circle, and then the circle keeps, like, there are several circles, right? And people like start playing from the inner circle, and it goes, and then everybody plays together. It's a really fun community activity. So we did something called the Kanjira circle in Tapasya. So we did the same, but with Kanjira. Yeah, so it was really fun. So I think it's definitely headed in a positive direction. Thanks for asking.
Beautiful. I'll just add, I'm totally out of my depths when it comes to Carnatic music or South Indian iconography, but there may be some precedents also, at least as far as in some other traditions. I'm a little bit more familiar with the Vrindavan Braj traditions, and there are depictions of many of the Braja Gopikas actually playing
Absolutely.
two-headed drums, which in Bengali are often called khol, but are sometimes also called mridanga, a different kind of mridanga. But there may be some precedent even going back that far.
In Cuba, there is this instrument called pandero cuadrado, which was actually played only by women. And then eventually it just got dominated by men, and no women are playing that now. But in folk tradition, only women are supposed to play pandero cuadrado.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
come over here.
Thank you very much for today's lecture. I really enjoyed it. My name is Varun. I'm a computer science PhD student here.
Can I request you to just,
Yes.
thank you.
I'm Varun. I'm a computer science PhD student here. I grew up in Bangalore, and for my entire childhood, I learned Hindustani music, but most of my family learned Carnatic music. So I'm just very curious to hear your thoughts on what the differences are between Carnatic and Hindustani. Earlier, you compared Carnatic with Western, but I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on Carnatic with Hindustani.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. I think the major differences are that the difference that jumps out to me is that the tala system in the Hindustani system of music is much less complicated. And uh, I mean, they mostly have Adital, and I'm guessing the Tishra Nadai Tal. So the tala, or the rhythm structure in Carnatic music, is very, very complicated. It can get very complicated, is what I think. And the second is the language propels. The Hindi is a very different. Hindi, Urdu are very different from Tamil, right? Tamil is a very Dravidian South Indian language. It's very it's very strong. Like, the enunciation is very strong. Whereas Hindi and Urdu, they are more like airy languages. So you know, they propel the raga very differently. For example, karama kar dije, kar dije, karama kar de. There's a lot of airiness and a lot of swing. Whereas the same desh, when I sing in Carnatic music, பிறவி அலையாற்றினில் புகுதாதே பிரகிருதி மார்க்கமுற்று அலையாதே பிறவி. There's a lot of constriction when it comes to pronunciation in Dravidian languages. So can you see the difference? Piravi alayatrinil, whereas karama kar dije, kar dije, karama kar di. So it sounds a lot more swingy and airier for me. Thank you. And oh. Shanmugam. Unfortunately not. All we know is that she played the veena, and we know the street in which she lived in Madurai. That's all we know. Unfortunately, not much is known about her. She was a Vani. She also played the veena. Yeah. I guess she fits the bill of a forgotten Devdasi, I guess. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm not able to hear you. Is your mic on? Oh, it's not working. Never mind. Veena Kuppayar is male. Andal, we have Bangalore Nagaratnammal, we have.
Oh, but are there any compositions, thank you, that are being taught that are composed by women? Because we learn so many male composite songs.
Yeah, I did a concert exclusively featuring women composers. So, I mean, I featured Andal. There is Avudai. We have Avudai from Bangalore. We have Bangalore Nagaratnammal. We have Avvayaruடைய Vinayakaragal we sing. So, Karekal Ammayar. We have a lot of contemporary women composers actually. I sang my own composition and I sang Baby Sriram is a wonderful composer. Um, there are many contemporary composers.
Are
Also.
they taught to students now?
Yes, absolutely. I teach it to my students. Lalgudi Vijayalakshmi.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Once again, let's give a big round of applause. With that, we will bring our evening to an end, although I invite, as long as Sriranjani ji is willing, if anyone has further questions or would just like to say hello and express their appreciation and gratitude, you're welcome to do that one-on-one. Before we bring this evening to a close, though, there was a sign-in sheet. We're very, very old school and low tech at the Hindu Life program, but somehow or other, it's been working for over 15 years for us, so we're going to keep going. If you haven't had a chance already, please do sign in, even if you think you already get emails and you're already aware. It just helps us to better serve you, to keep in touch with you, and to keep bringing you the type of programming that we're able to bring you. So if you haven't already, I don't know if someone can hold up the sign-in sheet. Can we? It's in the back now, so please go ahead and make sure you write legibly and sign in for tonight's event. Once again, on behalf of all the co-sponsors and our wonderful student groups that have co-sponsored, and on behalf of the Office of Religious Life, Hindu Life Program, thank you so much for being a part of this magical evening. Good evening.
Hi, Adya, is it? Who are you learning from? Of course. No, I'll come. Oh, okay.